Hello and welcome to Herbalist and Herbs. My name is Chrissakis. Today's video is short, Inside the Mind of Cancer. Now this is a bit of an abstract, but not really, and I want to try and present practical examples so that you get the idea of two things. One is that cancer thinks, and it is an opportunistic thinker. The other thing is that it's the job of the practitioner to figure out what it's thinking and what strategy it's using, and then to try and work that against it. Now, one oncologist that I met said that he felt that cancer was the perfect machine. And I can agree with that in certain idea, and at the same time it's very sloppy, it's very suicidal, and it's very methodological in its approach. However, once again, it's opportunistic, so you have to study each cancer individually to try and figure out what it's doing and how it's doing it. And what it's doing and how it's doing is lawful. It's going to follow the laws of physiology and cancer pathophysiology. So, being that the cancer is manipulative and opportunistic in nature, it basically hijacks systems that are normal and are there already and utilizes it for its own ends. One of the things that I try to get across in my lectures, and to give an example so people get a clearer picture of kind of the mind of cancer, is to use the metaphor of a good cop or a very good detective who's gone dark. And what this means is that a normal cell, which is turned cancer cell. So a normal cell is a good cop, he knows everything, the DNA already has all the information in it and all the ability of things and how the body works, and now it's in the hands of a criminal mind known as cancer. So that brain, the DNA, is what's been taken over by this renegade criminal force. So to go in and study it, you've got to study the person and the cancer. And you must once again understand that the cancer is opportunistic in nature. And anything that you give it that feeds its ends, it will utilize. So the main thrust of natural medicine is to take as much ground from the cancer as possible and strengthen the client as much as possible. And in doing so, a lot of things in the cancer get weakened. And this is a very critical point. But again, to get the idea across to people that cancer thinks and it's not a benign thing. One of the big mistakes that clients make or patients make when they come to see me is they've already had their treatment. They've had their surgery, chemo, and or radiation. And now they believe to some extent, and maybe fully, that the cancer has been completely eradicated, but somehow they want to come to me and make sure it doesn't come back. And of course, I'm going to steer them in the right direction. And the first thing that I'm going to tell them is the idea that cancer is completely gone from your body is an unknown. There's no way you can know it. And the idea that they've completely eradicated cancer by their treatment on you, if you look at the statistics in your particular cancer, you're going to find that generally they're pretty miserable. They're not very good, and people often get recurrences and get very sick. So again, the idea is to play good defense. But to go into the idea of how cancer works in a specific way, so you can see this, how this mind has begun to manipulate our body. It's become a separate force on its own. And you must remember that its aim is to become completely autonomous. So it's trying to break free of any type of control system that the body has imposed upon the cells that it would normally have. So, just to give an example, our immune system, a number of things in the immune system are dependent upon arginine, the amino acid arginine. Cancer will selectively upregulate the production of arginase, which is the enzyme that breaks down arginine. Now, your natural killer cells use arginine as an attack mechanism to destroy cancer cells, and they are your final defensive net against cancer cells. Well, if they don't have the arginine, they cannot do the attack mechanism, and the cancer knows this. So once again, it upregulates the arginase and downregulates the production of arginine at the same time, so that once again, it can begin to manipulate the immune system. This is just one simple example of how cancer works and how it thinks. To take another idea, there are a number of control mechanisms within the cell that are particular gene sites. And I've spoken about one of these already, which is P53. Another one is called P10. And both of these gene sites are critical to how the cell divides, when it divides, if it's mutated that it gets killed or destroyed through the process of apoptosis or cell suicide, or that it gets repaired and can continue to go on. All of those things are under the control of these two gene sites. Both of these gene sites get damaged in cancer. P53 is extremely common in all cancers, and P10 you'll find often in more advanced cancers, metastatic cancers, that it has gone to another degree to destroy any type of control on it. There's another thing called gap junction, in which cells communicate to each other. The cells in the same colony that are adjacent to each other communicate to each other due to a gap, a chemical tunnel that's built between the two cells. Now, again, cancer selectively mutates out and downregulates gap junction production in the cell so that it doesn't have to listen to any orders from the surrounding colony in terms of cell division. It can divide as much as it wants, and it can live as long as it wants. Now, natural medicine approaches these kinds of ideas in a unique way, and that is it looks at many of these processes as they are. That is, they are natural processes gone haywire by the manipulation of the cancer. So the intent is not to get rid of this process, but to normalize it. Now, the difference between natural medicine and pharmaceutical medicine is that it completely removes the process, which once again has a place when it's necessary, because drugs are great things to use when you need them. However, because they're so powerful, they tend to have major collateral damage effects. And once again, if you're going to give someone something as strong as a chemotherapeutic agent, the testing should be extensive as to what you give them. And the technology is now available to do that. Because if you give them the wrong chemotherapeutic drug, they die or it doesn't work. Now, a large percentage of deaths in chemotherapy are due to thrombosis, that is clotting. Many of the chemotherapeutic drugs clot blood even more. And cancer, one of its strategies is hypercoagulation, inflammation and hypercoagulation, thicken blood, so it can do a bunch of things that it normally could not do. So if you, again, when the docs are testing, they should be doing more extensive testing before they give the chemotherapeutic agent to determine if it's the proper chemotherapeutic agent and where the cancer is at specifically before they give them the drug. Now, once again, many of these things in the cancer that develop chemo and radio resistance are dependent upon having certain growth factors and other factors in the environment supporting it so that it can become resistant. Once again, one of the jobs of natural medicine is to disarm these surrounding supportive mechanisms to the cancer. Much of the botanicals and supplements that you use in programs with people reduce and eliminate multi-drug resistance and radio resistance. Now, if you want to know more about this subject, please go to my website, which is herbalistandherbs.com. Thanks a lot for your time.